Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to be your own hero. I got a nice little lake setting in the background here because I was feeling kind of like serene today and all that. But we're ready to go, and we're gonna ramp it up because we've got a great guest today who I think you're gonna really enjoy. There's so much going on, as I mentioned in previous videos, and I I promise I will share some major things happening in my personal life, which I can't reveal quite yet, but I will so soon. But things are going absolutely great, and I'm so happy. At this time, I'd also like to mention that in Pennsylvania, September 30th and October 1st, and I hope I put this out before then, we will have an in-person gathering with perspectives, showing up perspectives on cancer with Tim Sohn in Dunmore, Pennsylvania. If anybody's in the area, it's in Scranton, who could join us. It is free, and it's something that will be really great. And I'm looking forward to it so much because I will have a chance to meet in person, probably seven or eight or maybe even more of people I've interviewed over Zoom. And for the first time, I'll have an opportunity to meet them in person. Some of those are uh, Russ Hedge, Tim Sohn, Erica Newbert Campbell, Kara Honorato, uh, Tim McDonald, and I know there's a few more that I'm forgetting at this moment, but if you can make it, boy, I'd love to see you in person as well. At this time, what I'd like to do is bring on my guest who you are gonna love. David McBee, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll get rocking and rolling here.
Hello, my name is David McBee, and I am a digital marketer and training consultant. I have a podcast of my own. It's unrelated to any of this. It's all about digital media. And I am a children's book author and a huge fan of traveling and the outdoors. How's that?
That's great. That is great. And I am so excited to hear about your story. And I originally saw David on Tim Sohn's Showing Up Perspective on Cancer. And as soon as I saw that, I said, wow, I got to get this guy on my YouTube channel. And so, David, welcome. And let's start off and talk about how you found out that you had cancer and what type and the details about that.
Okay. I had a routine colonoscopy in October or August, June of last year, something like that. And they found a small nodule, which they didn't think much of. But the biopsy came back and revealed that it was a neuroendocrine tumor, also known as NETs. Neuroendocrine tumors are the same kind of cancer that took Steve Jobs and Aretha Franklin from us. And it's a slow growing, non aggressive cancer. And if it had just been in my colon, would have been a 97% survival rate, kind of a non-issue kind of cancer, honestly. Unfortunately, the PET scan and MRIs revealed that it had metastasized into my liver, where they found another 10 tumors, I believe. So, again, nothing that was causing me any symptoms, nothing that was immediately life-threatening. The prognosis came back, and it was in my opinion, a very small number of years that they said I had. The doctors seem to think it was a great number, apparently, because they're probably so used to giving people less than a year to live. But I hated that number. That was a scary and hard day. But they decided to go ahead and do surgery. So they took several sections of my small and large colon, bowels, however you say that, the gallbladder, and they carved out the tumors on my liver, taking about 25% of my liver. They also had to ablaze some of the tumors that were deep inside the liver. So they stick a needle in and electrocute them. And it was a brutal surgery. The hardest part of the surgery actually was I got an infection where they had blazed one of those tumors. Shortly after the surgery, it grew up to the size of a plum, they said, inside my liver. Yikes.
Wow.
That was incredibly painful. They stuck me with the worst Capri Sun bag ever that I had to worry around for a couple of weeks to fix the liver infection. But at the end of the day, they got all the tumors. They came in and we celebrated, and I thought that I had the easiest, shortest cancer story of all time. But the doctors said that neuroendocrine tumors don't just go away. It is not the kind of cancer that you beat. It is a chronic disease caused by a gene malfunction. And he said the words, "It will be back." Not "it might be back," not "someday it'll be back." He said, "It will be back." To which I kind of didn't want to believe. And honestly, I kind of ignored him, which I don't know. Maybe I just thought my power of positive thinking will keep the tumors away, but that did not happen. The reoccurrence actually happened only 6 months after. So March of this year, my scans came back and there were a few more tumors in my liver. That one absolutely took the breath out of me. I mean, I really thought I was past it, and sure enough, I was told by the universe that this is something I was going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. Now, the good news is these 3 little tumors are not causing much trouble. And thanks to the radical changes that I've made in my lifestyle, and possibly some of the new drugs they've got me on, or some combination of those 2 things, the tumors are currently stable. And I'm in good shape. So I don't know what that prognosis would look like today, but I don't allow doctors to give me prognosis anymore. So I'm very grateful actually for the state of my cancer and how it's changed my life over the course of this last year.
So you mentioned radical changes. What are some of those radical changes that you've made?
Well, I actually use the word radical very purposefully, because one of the first books that I read, as cancer patients often do when they research like crazy, right, was a book called Radical Remissions. And in the book Radical Remissions, they outline 9, and then in the sequel, a 10th lifestyle change that a person can make in order to, help their own body to heal its cancer. And the book is filled with stories very similar to yours, Mark, where conventional medicine said, "This is how it's going to be." And the patient said, "No, it's not." So some of those changes are radically changing your diet.
Let me pause you right there.
Okay.
And I want to, for those of you who haven't heard, I've spoken about radical remissions on this channel a few times. But Radical Remissions, if you want to look it up, was written by a woman named Kelly Turner. And it is a great book, highly recommended to everybody. In fact, she's written a sequel. And so go ahead. I wanted to interject that in there before you got too far. So go ahead.
Oh, absolutely,
David.
So the first one is radically changing your diet. And that can mean different things for different people. For me, it meant giving up. And you know what? I'm about to list a bunch of things that I've given up, but I have not 100% given up these things. I've probably given up all these things 95%. Okay. Because, I'm weak, or I just deserve a Mountain Dew once in a while. Right. So I've given up alcohol, most meat. I eat mostly pescatarian, some poultry, caffeine with the occasional coffee on a weekend, Soda. Oh, I miss soda. I loved soda so much. Most sugar, all artificial sweeteners. I think those are the devil. So I mostly eat a Mediterranean diet of fish and vegetables and things like that. The second thing that I changed was my exercise habits. I was already a fairly good exerciser, but now I am highly committed to exercising at least 6 days a week, whether that's 10,000 steps or doing aerobics, or I have a rowing machine or some lifting of weights. And I always get 8 hours of sleep or more, and usually 9.5 sometimes. After reading all those articles about how the only time your body heals is when it's asleep, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to give my body more opportunities to sleep and heal, right? The third step is to follow your intuition, and that's a little bit harder to describe. For me, it's about listening to my body and making peace with the stress that I have in my life, and overcoming some of the anger issues that I've been dealing with for my entire life, and being more grateful. Gratitude's a huge part of my healing process. Number 4 is use herbs and supplements, and anybody watching this channel is probably doing a lot of that anyway, right? So I won't go into details about
Not
what I do.
necessarily, not necessarily.
Okay, well, the two that I shout out for everybody is spirulina and probiotics. Like, there's a million other ones, but those two absolutely changed my life. So those have been huge for me. Number 5, Kelly suggests that you release suppressed emotions. And this was maybe the hardest one for me. I actually wrote a book a few years ago about my anger issues and my OCD, and how my family and I were we were struggling. They were always walking on eggshells because I was this intense person who just really just swallowed up my anger, and they just never knew exactly what version of me to expect. So I continue to work on that every single day. To be honest with you, it's a little easier now, because one of the things I always wanted to do was not sweat the small stuff, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. And I knew that in my head, it wasn't worth sweating, but I would always sweat the small stuff anyway. Well, now something happens that irritates me or makes me mad or stresses me out. It's like my daughter's car has been in the shop for 2 months. Normally I would be fuming about something like that. Is way too long for a car to be in a shop, right? But now I'm just like, it's not cancer. Like, why would I get mad about that? The car will get fixed eventually. It's not a cancer diagnosis. So it's not cancer has become one of my mantras.
What's interesting, and you're bringing up something, is how our perspective changes. Now it's so interesting you bring that up, because nothing, once you've stared death in the face like we have, it puts everything into a different light. And so I totally get it, and I commend you for changing who you are. I mean, I look at myself, and I've changed literally everything about myself, as a result of cancer, and it's for the better, I believe. And I had to change so many things. I thought my diet was the greatest diet in the world prior to cancer, but I had to come to the realization, hey, my cancer was so bad, and here all this time I'm thinking that I had the greatest diet in the world. I was a vegan, and I totally changed that. And so that was amongst other things that I had to do. So I'm right there in lockstep with you about radical remissions and the things that you did. And so I commend you tremendously. So proceed, David. I'm excited to hear this.
The sixth thing that she recommends, or these aren't really her recommendations, they are her findings, right, based on all the radical remission cases that she studied. But the sixth one is to increase positive emotions. And for me, I do that with music. I heard a song early on after my diagnosis called City of Hope by Journey. And it's kind of a rare Journey song that you probably haven't heard of, but I remember listening to it and thinking, gosh, I feel so hopeful and feel like there's a chance, like I'm going to the city of hope where cancer doesn't exist, it's like, so I asked all my friends on Facebook to help me put together a song list of songs that were about hope. And today I have something like 72 or 73 songs on that list. There's songs you probably would know, like Overcomer by Mandisa, Roar, not Roar, but Rise by Katy Perry. These songs, like when you listen to them, you just feel this intense emotion that you are going to be victorious. And so I listen to that playlist every day, not the whole thing, but every single day. I ask Alexa to shuffle the songs from that playlist, and I listen to a couple of them. And that has been absolutely instrumental in my healing journey. And I highly recommend everyone create an About Hope playlist. Number 7 is embrace social support. And this is a funny one because I'm a social guy. I've had lots of friends over the years. But if you were to have asked me a year ago, what are your friendships like? It would have been like, well, I've had a lot of friends over the years, but I'm not really close friends with a lot of people. I didn't have buddies that I went and hung out with. I was basically hanging out with my family. But when I shared with my community that I had cancer, holy moly, they came out of the woodwork, right? Man, people were sending me texts and calling me and buying our t-shirt, our fundraising t-shirt, and just the meal trains and the people coming over and mowing the lawn after my surgery. Like, my friendship community just exploded. And here we are a year later. By the way, my surgery was a year ago today, Mark. September.
Wow. Congratulations.
So that's kind of cool. Today I make an effort. I work from home, which is hard enough to be by yourself all day, but I make an effort to go have a lunch every week with at least someone in my friend group, someone I haven't seen in a while. I just went to lunch last week with David Malugin, who I grew up with when I was 6 years old.
That's great.
So that's another one of the steps, is embracing social support. Number 8 is deepening your spiritual connection. And that one challenged me a little bit, Mark, because I was raised Catholic, and I kind of felt like I just inherited those beliefs, And then in my 20s, I kind of started questioning them, and then I kind of put God on the back burner for many, many years. And then over this last year, I have reignited my relationship with God. We talk all the time. And I'm not just talking about me praying to him or her. I hear his or her voice in my head. I hear the conversation. It's absolutely beautiful. It's hard to explain, but I am as sure that there is a God as sure as I have this cup in my hand. Like, I didn't feel that way before, but now I know that God is there for me. And the conversations are never about things that I'm asking for, unless I'm asking for another person, but they are always about gratitude. So my relationship with God is better than it's ever been. And then the last one is having strong reasons for living. And for me, that is my family. Like, I am married to the greatest woman. She is so out of my league, and she loves me so much. And I just want to stick around for her for years and years and years and years. And I have some super cool kids, and I want to see my grandkids someday. So I definitely have strong reasons for living. And so those 9 things have completely transformed me as a human being. And like, I wish I didn't have to have gotten a cancer diagnosis to embrace those 9 things. I would love for everyone to just go do those 9 things as almost a prophylactic for not getting sick and reshaping their lives going forward. But for me, the Radical Remissions guidelines have been my map. My journey has been completely built on those steps.
I totally get it. And it's interesting you mentioned about grandkids, because my daughter, my younger daughter, Tani, she's expecting our first grandchild in November.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. And uh, she had a wedding ceremony back a year ago, October. And she asked me to give a speech, and she said, you only have 4 minutes, I know you're going to want to talk for like a lot longer, but you have 4 minutes. See, she said, she put 4 fingers up. She said, 4, that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all you got. I said, okay. But one of the things that I said was, I am so happy to be here. And I had to live for days like today. And so that's the way I look at things, is all these things that I'm so blessed with, and I appreciate them so much more than I did before. It's really, really amazing how beautiful things really are. When I was at my worst, I weighed 123 pounds. I weigh 165 now. And I was stuck in my room for 3 months. I didn't hardly leave my room except for to go downstairs. And that first day that I opened up my front door for the first time after all those months, it was just unbelievable. I didn't look at things the same way. Things that I had just walked outside, went to my car, put the key in the ignition and just drove off. I walked outside and I looked and I stared and I looked at the blue sky and I looked at the trees and I listened to the birds, and I thought, wow, I've been missing all my life these things that are so incredible. Now I finally appreciate them to its fullest extent. So yeah, I mean, I know I kind of segued a little bit from what you were doing, but I think that's says a lot as to the journey itself, and the journey of having to go through something that is not easy, and it's not fun. In fact, I think you and I both would agree there's a lot of things that are pretty terrible. But if we take it one day at a time, no matter what a person's going through, and if you're watching this, no matter what you're going through, if you take one day at a time and appreciate each day, things can happen so much easier, and you could appreciate things so much more. So David, it's back to you. Sorry, I kind of segued again, but
yeah, it's your show. You're allowed to segue any way you want.
And I do. So let's talk about your family and how your family reacted to your cancer.
My wife had this reaction that was kind of a mix of being completely pissed off because she had just lost her mother to cancer not that long ago, and she lost her grandparents to cancer. And so she's just mad, that cancer's back in her life, especially this early in our lives. I'm only 52 now. But I think she pushed those immediate feelings aside to become the nurturer and the caregiver. And man, she stepped into that role. Oh, she just was amazing. She took care of all the paperwork and the doctors and all the stuff that I'm just not good at. And she has been amazingly there for me every step of the way. My son, who is he's 23 now, he is such a gentle soul. He's like this empath. And so he was sad and scared, and wore his emotions on his sleeve, and it was hard to see how sad and scared he was. But he kind of took cues from me. So when I was sad and scared, he was sad and scared. But when I was feeling brave and grateful and confident, so did he. My daughter, in the meantime, who's 18, she is a spitfire. And I don't think that there was ever a question in her mind that this was just going to be a part of dad's story. And like, there was no chance that I was going anywhere. Like, she was just sure that I was going to beat it. And this was not a big deal. Like,
That's
there was
awesome.
maybe a moment when she came to see me in the hospital and I was struggling, with the catheter and all the things. Like, that was maybe the day she was like, oh, this is a bigger deal than I realized. Like, yeah, kid, it's cancer and it's a huge surgery, 47 staples later. But mostly she just had this confidence about her that I would be okay. And the reality is, I fed off of her confidence. It was exactly what I needed from her, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So seeing the belief and faith that she had that I would win kind of made me want to live up to her expectations.
It's fascinating how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
David, there's so much more I would like to get into conversation with you. Would you be willing to come back and shoot a part two uh, of the interview?
Yeah, are you going to double my fee?
Yeah, I will. I will. I'll make sure that your fee is doubled.
Because 0 times 2 is still 0.
There you go.
Absolutely. I like sharing my story, and because I gained so much hope from those radical remission stories. I want people to find hope in my story, hopefully. I will say this, and I had some thoughts after doing Tim's interview. I mean, his interview, he entitled it "How Cancer Changed My Life for the Better," which, yeah, the whole conversation was about how grateful I am and how much of my life has improved. It was like the silver linings of cancer. But if I can be totally honest with you, Mark, there's a part of me that wonders if there are people out there that it just made mad, like people who aren't doing as well. Like, well, fine, you got 3 little tumors. You're how do you even count that as a cancer story, right? So I do like telling my story, but I'm also very cautious that I don't want to send the wrong message that I'm marginalizing someone else's journey. Does that make sense?
It does, but we live in such a divisive world that I think it's, once we feel we have our story intact, I that's what I go with. This is who I am. So, I mean, I'm not going to force myself onto somebody else. That's why with whatever I do, I pretty much put it on the virtual table. This is what I did. You can take whatever you want from that table and make it your own. I don't care, whatever I could do to help you, that I consider my goal to be accomplished. I mean, if it's something that you feel like is something that could help benefit your life, that's fantastic. But I'm not going to shove anything down your throat. No way. That's just not what I do. And I think we have so much of that in today's world that, people don't need people who've gone through cancer shoving things down people's throats. I think that's the way I look at it.
That's fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But Would you have a final thought that you would like to leave everybody for this particular part one, of which you're getting well paid?
Yeah. I tell people every day that my superpower is gratitude, that it is the thing that I have embraced with all of my heart. And I believe it has made my life infinitely better, my health better, my relationships better. We all talk a big game about how we are grateful, but really most of us maybe go around the table at Thanksgiving and say what we're grateful for. I've set a reminder in my phone to remind me every single day to practice gratitude, to say, all right, reflect on the day and what was great about it. What are we grateful for that happened today? Even if it was something, even if bad things happened, bad things usually lead to good things, right? Like, think about all the worst tragedies that you've been through in your life. They've shaped you into the person that you are. If you could go back in time, a lot of us wouldn't change those. So it's okay to actually be grateful for hard things too. But that's my best advice. If I were to leave the planet today, I'd say, everyone, practice gratitude and it will improve your life.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it. And that's why I want to bring you back for part two to share more of what you've learned. And the thing that I would like people to take away from this is I bring on so many different people with all different types of cancers, and there's so many different ways to get to the destination. You know, not one method works. And I think it's so important that people look at the whole scope of the person and work to improve that, because that's how you'll get to where you want to be. And this life is not easy. You know, we live in a very, very difficult world, but if we all stay together and work together and support each other and inspire each other, that's how this world is going to get better, right? I mean, it's not going to happen by itself. It's going to happen by us being intentional and helping to make it better. So at this time, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Please subscribe, like, and make a comment in the comment section. In fact, if you want to ring the notification bell for further videos, I'd appreciate that. But make the most out of every single day. This life that we have is precious. We only go around one time. I want to share a couple of quick quotes with you from Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, and that's how I usually end up the videos. The first one is, get worked up about your job and you will work your job up. I love that one. The second one is, when you are afraid, do the thing you are afraid of, and soon you will lose your fear of it. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend and week ahead, and make the most out of every single day, because every single day is just absolutely beautiful. Every single hour is beautiful. Every single minute is beautiful, and every single breath is beautiful. Thank you once again for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much.